A very warm welcome to all of you to this Art of Mindfulness session. Let us all begin with mindfulness meditation to bring and to recall all our senses back into this moment that we may get best out of this session. So let us begin. Sit straight with your spine straight, legs firmly on the ground, feet slightly apart, and your palms on your lap facing upwards in receptive position. And when you're ready, close your eyes, breathe in, and gently breathe out. Breathe in, and gently breathe out. Breathe in the pure positive energy, and breathe out any stress or anxiety might be carrying. Bring your awareness to any sound or sounds you're able to hear. Notice all the sounds around you. With your eyes closed, see what you're able to see. Bring your and become completely aware. Feel the taste in your mouth. Touch. Feel the fabric against your skin, the seat you're sitting on, the ground beneath your feet. Feel the sensation on your skin, the temperature. As you recall all your senses back to you, drop within. Breathe in and gently drop within to the part of the body that is peaceful. Anchor yourself in this place. Feel the peace. And let it spread in your entire body. Let it move through your body, through your hips, legs, and through your feet, deeply rooted into the Mother Earth. And let it expand in your entire body and reach out the entire space and cover the room. You're now in a place of peace. Experience it for a moment. And from this place of peace, connect with the Divine Supreme, whether you call it the universe, God, nature, or pure energy, or higher intelligence. Reach out to this higher intelligence. Divine Father, Divine Mother, We thank you for your divine protection, divine healing, and guidance. Mahaguruji, Mailing, Master Boxui, all the great masters and holy saints, all the bodhisattvas, all the healing angels, and all the spiritual helpers. We thank you for your divine blessings, divine healing, and divine protection. And in full faith, so be it, and so it is. With this knowing in your heart and gratitude, bring your awareness back to this room, to this moment. Rub your palms together. Place them on your eyes. And when you're ready, open your eyes with a big smile. So, welcome back, everyone. Very happy to have you all here. Join us this session. We have a very special guest today. And today's guest is Antarguru Sai Keshav, who's a young Indian mystic, musician, and healer hailing from Bangalore, India. He has recently authored the book From a Mystic's Diary, which describes his journey and spiritual practices on the path of mysticism. An intense spiritual practitioner, Antarguru is of the firm belief born out of direct experience that any form of change, be it social or economic or spiritual, has to be initiated from within rather than being enforced from without. The change or transformation brought from within manifests a change in the external environment too, without any additional effort whatsoever. So, being a musician trained in Carnatic tradition, Antarguru spent the initial few years of his career as a vocalist and performing artist with a considerable fan following in local circles and on the internet. As he progressed on his spiritual journey, Antarguru decided to dedicate his musical acumen and skills for the benefits of the society. Having been educated in an institution that stressed on value-based learning, Antarguru Sai Keshav was inspired to cultivate music as a medium for impacting and inculcating values in school-going children and youngsters. And growing up in a society, so he comes with these deep values of giving and sharing, and he wants to, as I see, he uses all his skills and, of course, his spiritual practices and his spiritual values in benefiting the society. So I'm very excited to have him part of this session. So may I request Antarguru to please join the session? Good morning.
Yes.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
Really glad to see you. So, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you. So, could you please talk to us about your spiritual journey?
Well, I think it began since my childhood itself, to be honest. I think all our spiritual journeys, it begins from our birth. There is no separate thing as a spiritual journey. Of course, you might take a certain path and then call it a spiritual journey. But otherwise, if we really look at life, I think from the time we are born, we are already on a spiritual journey because we are trying to gain a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge, trying to deal with life, trying to know things beyond our understanding at that moment. Things like that. That itself is spiritual in a lot of ways. So this all began, I think, in my childhood itself. My family they were devoted to Shri Satya Sai Baba, and there were always bhajans that constantly played in the house the whole day. Entire day there was one tape recorder that constantly played bhajans. So that was how music got cultivated very naturally. And my dad being a musician, I think that also came in the bloodline. So that's how my introduction to this whole thing began with music, constantly playing in the house. And even around our house, we have a lot of trees, and we can see those trees almost bending towards the house. And later we got to know that this is because of that constant music. Even the nature around you starts tilting itself towards that. So there's a lot of study that is going on about this as well. But yes, I grew up in an environment where at that time Bangalore was a very it just had a few eucalyptus trees, especially the place where I am in is called Marathali, and it was honestly just a thick, dense eucalyptus tree forest, and we had to, even to visit our neighbors, we had to pass through this forest. So somewhere there was a blessing of being close to nature during these childhood times. And as I grew up, I started knowing more about devotion, knowing more about surrender, knowing more about bhakti and different aspects from one particular angle, because my family were very devout to a guru, and that continued for a while. And then I went on to study in Sri Sathya Sai school at Mudanahalli, which is very nearby to Bangalore, 2 hours from Bangalore, very beautiful place. I studied there, and that again inculcated a lot of values, human values. So all these schools that I come from, their focus is not about you becoming a successful engineer or a doctor. Their focus is about you first becoming a good human being. Only after you become a good human being does everything else really matter. So that is the kind of thought process that was instilled in all of us, and I grew up in such an environment. And with time, as I progressed, there were certain, I think all of us have these questions in life. Why are we here? Why are we born? What is the purpose of our life? Are we just here to come, eat, sleep, earn, and then leave? Or is there something beyond? Is there something more? So these are questions that comes to everybody at some point in their life, irrespective of being exposed to a spiritual environment or not. I think these questions are something that is inbuilt. There's already inbuilt in us. As we grow up, these questions keep haunting us as to, is this all life is about? Do we just come and do we just eat, sleep, and then study, and then is this all, or is there something more? Is there something more? So this question started haunting me so seriously, so intensely, that finally I couldn't focus on anything else apart from getting the truth to these questions. Again, these are just 3 that I mentioned right now, but there were so it went to such an extent where music became my escape, where I would constantly do music to feel a sense of bliss. And then again, when I'm not doing music, these questions are back haunting me. So it used to be like this, where studies became a very far off thing for me. I always ran away from books. And when I say books, it's not just about mathematics or science. I ran away even from spiritual books. Even since my childhood, I always ran away because somehow I felt that there is no connection at that point of time, even though they are very, I mean, they're a lot of wisdom, they're very wise, very deep. Of course, the divine had different plans. But as I grew up with this process, I got introduced to a lot of different gurus, a lot of different spiritual masters, and from another plane, I don't want to go very deep into it, but from another plane, my own guru guiding me in so many ways, so many aspects. This led me to a certain inner experience one day, where I visited a hill very nearby, uh, 2 hours from Bangalore, called Siddharabetta. It is in Kannada, the translation is. So right now we don't see too many saints there, but once upon a time that hill was energized with a lot of saints and enlightened beings just coming and meditating there. Now it's become more like a tourist spot, but it's still very serene, and you can still feel a sense of energy when you go there. So I went on an early morning trek alone, and when I reached that spot, there was a certain space that called me, and when I sat there, and there was a 20-minute of very, very deep inner experience, which I cannot put it in words, but that experience changed the way I look at life, changed about life, changed the way I look at people. And a lot of answers started coming through in a different way. And my whole approach to how I want to lead life from here on, from this second on. How do I want to move further? So that aspect or identity of I want to become a musician, I want to be successful, I want to go to Bollywood, I want to do this, I want to do that. Till that moment, all that was there. But after that, 20 minutes just turned me upside down, where none of that mattered anymore. The transforming people's lives mattered, because once you experience a certain inner experience and transformation, after that there is nothing else you want to do other than giving this bliss and joy to other people. So in short, that is how the journey has been so far. And from then on, I have been helping people, guiding people, working with a lot of people. We have a music Section 8 company called Songs of Life, where we are trying to teach music to underprivileged kids for free, trying to reach out to government school kids and trying to teach them music for free. Because for them, they somehow they're nowadays, because of a lot of organizations working together, they're somehow able to manage food and they're able to sleep, but they can't think beyond that. So music is a blessing for such kids. For us, probably our parents would just pay money and put us in a music class, but that is not the case with these kids. And I believe that music has a lot of spiritual power. The moment you experience music coming out of you, one is listening, one is shravanam, then there is mananam. When you start experiencing music, again, that also transforms you in a certain way. So we are trying to incorporate music using human values to these school children, underprivileged kids. And of course, we are also working on other aspects of music like sound healing. We're trying to reach out to different organizations to create research, etc. That has been the thing with Songs of Life. And then we are also forming another we have formed already, in fact, called Antarguru Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So Antarvyom means inner space. Antar is inner, Vyom is space. So Antarvyom Foundation again focuses on our ancient Indian traditions like Ayurveda and yoga and all that. And we are trying to set this up very close by to the airport, very near to Nandi Hills and the airport.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been the journey so far.
That's beautiful. So you had this divine calling, and you had this divine moment where you have transformed, or you have been transformed. That's beautiful. So it already says so much about the divine grace. So stay blessed on that. And you did mention about music. Of course, you are. Music is. I do see that it is. Very innate part of you. And the first time we spoke also was about music and everything around it. So could you please talk to us about how we could manage anxiety and such like negative emotions that we go through, and how do we manage that in our day-to-day lives?
Coachmallikarao?
Yeah. Did something happen? Sorry, I think.
Oh, no. Oh, are you able to hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So you see, when we talk about anxiety and depression, and we are seeing that a lot these days, especially, and it doesn't spare anybody. Even from us, from the most spiritual being to the most non-spiritual being, that goes on. I think it is something that is going to enlighten into everybody's life.
Okay. And since you mentioned kids also, and you work closely with kids, and I see that even children are anxious these days, and they're also going through depression. There's so many unfortunate incidents and cases you hear, and you wonder that, oh, why? At one point, we used to believe that when I used to tell my mother I have a headache, she said, kids can't have headache, period. You can't be sad, period. But now we see all these things in children as well. So how do we address this?
Yes. So, of course, it really shocked me as well with kids, because I was working in a school, and then I see that there is a department for psychology just for kids who are going through certain emotions and anxiety. I think these were things that we never had in our school life. Separate psychologist to take care of kids' depression. But I think this is mostly because with the growth of technology, we have the good and the bad. So there is the side effects of technology that we are seeing, where kids are completely involved in a relationship with their mobile phones or a relationship with their televisions than human beings. So in our childhood, when we had a problem, we approached a friend who would understand us, who had the same maturity as us, and we would approach him or her, and then there would be a discussion on the same psychological level, which itself would be a healing process. But now what has happened is parents have become very busy. Parents are going to work. Parents are always occupied with one thing or the other, and the kid does not get the attention that it needs to. And the kid observes. A child is constantly observing everything around him or her. It's constantly in the process of taking in information. So how is my mother behaving? How is my father behaving? How is my uncle behaving? Things like that. This is something that is happening very, very unplanned in the mind of a child, because it's always trying to capture information. And when certain things are not understood, this kid does not have a space to go and discuss. Because the moment this kid says, "I want to come and talk to you," then the parent would say, "No, no, not now. Let's talk about it later." Now, who else does the kid go to, especially in a city life? If the kid was in a hostel, probably that's a very big, that's a nice thing, because there are a lot of other kids to approach. If not one, you have thousands more. But when it comes to a home in a city like Bangalore or Delhi or Mumbai, whatever, what happens is that nowadays we don't even know who our neighbors are. That is why in one of another interview, I said that this whole situation of COVID in a way is also a blessing, because now we are meeting our neighbors, we are meeting our family members, we are getting to know that, okay, such people are there around us. That kind of situation and that kind of blessing has come with this, apart from whatever the negative sides that we have seen. So now when we say depression and anxiety, I'll come later. First, I'll come to the part of it, because we need to first know how to deal with it ourselves before we go and start working with the kids at some point. So I think the best thing to do initially on the first stage, would be to first understand that when we say depression or when we say anxiety, does it affect our awareness and does it affect our consciousness? These are questions we need to ask. If it is affecting our awareness in a certain way, then is it permanent? The moment depression hits our awareness, is it changing our awareness in a way where it is permanent, or is it going to go away? So this means that, just for an example, we have a vast ocean, never-ending ocean, and then there are waves. So irrespective of the waves calming down or the waves going really furious, does it affect the water of these waves? What it really is? What is the reality of these waves? Does it really affect that? That is the first question we need to ask ourselves, irrespective of what is the height of the wave or what is the furiosity of that wave at some point. So in the Indian spirituality, in the Indian system, we speak about this very, 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 very detailed, in a very detailed manner, that this cannot affect your sense of spirituality or your sense of uh, truth that you are from within. This cannot affect what you really are from within. And what you get so lost in these, what to say, in these things that are very external in nature. Sorry, I am getting messages that you're not able to hear me. Are you able to hear?
We can hear
Yes, I'm
you.
able to hear. Yes.
All right. Okay. Yes. So as you progress in this path, what is going to happen is, your first question is, can spirituality be used at such times? That is the first question. The truth is that this is the time to use spirituality, because if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the highest philosophies, it was given in a battlefield. It was not given in an ashram or in a Zoom call. It was actually given in a battlefield where there was a lot of depression and anxiety on what is going to happen. How are we going to face this? This is when the Gita was itself given, right? So spirituality truly comes to use at this situation, because this is a situation where you are in a very, very intensified state from within. You're filled with a lot of energy to solve a particular situation or to come to a solution in a certain sense or in a certain way, that you start working towards it. So now, how do we deal with it? There are 4 beautiful approaches that we have in the Advaita Vedanta that we say. So there are 4 forms of yogas that we have. One is called Jnana Yoga. So Jnana Yoga is the path of knowledge or the path of wisdom or the path of inner inquiry. Then we have Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is all about devotion, cultivating devotion from within. So then we have Raja Yoga, then we have Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is about selfless service. Raja Yoga, we'll come to it a little later. It is more about using your energies to reach the ultimate. But that has a combination of the other 3. Now we have 3 forms of yoga, like I said. One is Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge. Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion. Karma Yoga, the path of service. Now, how does this come into play during a crisis like COVID? Now, let me come to this. You see, all the places that we were in, let's rewind all our lives 1 year back. Streets completely filled, busy streets, completely filled auditoriums, thousands and thousands of people. We had schools filled with hundreds of kids. We had organizations, we had corporate offices with hundreds and thousands of people working. But when we think about our life 1 year back, how life was 1 year back in the world, today it all feels very dreamlike. It all feels like, was that even true? Was that a dream? Because right now we are getting accustomed to this entire sense of lockdown. But if we rewind our life just 4 months back, when we were in that kind of lifestyle, then this whole concept about lockdown, concept about just being in your house and not getting out, all this seemed dreamlike. So which is true? Is this true or is that true? Because both, now when we think about it, both are very dreamlike situations, something we never expected. So this, what does this mean? That every situation is coming and affecting your awareness in a different way, where when you are there, you felt that this situation is dreamlike. When you're here, you felt that that situation is dreamlike. But in reality, both of these are just situations which are dreams. It's not dream-like, which are dreams. Now I'm going to go a little more deep into this. So I hope everybody just catches up with me on this. So when we say dream, it is commonly heard that those who are in this path, I'm sure many of you would have commonly heard this particular thing, that this life itself is an illusion. What you're seeing itself is an illusion. And it's beautifully said that there are 2 important states. One is a sleeping state. One is a dreaming state. Now, when I'm saying dreaming state, I'm not meaning about the dream that you get during your sleep. In reality, now we are in a state of a dream. We are in a dreaming state. We are dreaming about it. All this is like an illusion which feels like a reality. And then there is a state of sleep. There is a third concept which is called awakening, the true awakening. Now, in this state of awakening, there is no sleep, there is no dream. You are awake to understand, you are wise to understand that this sleep and this dream both are not real. I, as a consciousness, I, as a pure consciousness, pure Atman that we say, I am real. So the moment you understand this, the moment you go deeper into this, the moment you take the path of Jnana Yoga. So the path of Jnana Yoga is more about inner inquiry. You trying to question all the situations in your life in a positive way. Is this real? Is this going to remain forever? If it is going to remain forever, it can be true, but it does not remain forever, which is why it is something that is temporary. For example, this body has to perish someday. It has to go and bite the dust someday. These thoughts might live forever in certain way, but maybe not the way you thought about it, right? So these are the paths that you have in Jnana Yoga, where you pay a lot of importance to knowledge, you pay a lot of importance to self-inquiry. In this beautiful path of Bhakti Yoga. So Jnana Yoga talks about me. I am the pure consciousness. I am the one who's experiencing all this, but it is not real. Just like I gave you the example of this vast waves, irrespective of how the water is going, topsy-turvy, however it wants to go, at the end of the day, I need to come to a standstill. It is my nature to come to a standstill where I reflect everything the way it is. So the approach of spirituality is trying to come to this beautiful standstill without allowing anything to come and disturb you all the time, to get that sense of stillness within you. And then comes the path of Bhakti Yoga. This Bhakti Yoga, what does it say? Is very beautiful. In Jnana Yoga, we say everything is me, the consciousness, everything is me, the divine, everything is me, the Atman. When you go to Bhakti Yoga, it says, not me, you, my Lord. So what is this trying to convey? It is not that me and the Lord that we're referring to are any different to each other, but you start off with this path of surrender. You start off with this path that irrespective of what I go through, He will take care. Irrespective of what I go through, that Almighty will take care. Irrespective of what I go through, that God will take care. The Guru will take care. First, we start with something that we point out externally. And we throw all that. When we have a depression, when we have anxiety, we go, we pray, we cry, we have worshipping of different idols. We start worshipping that idol, we pray, we cry, we energize that idol, we start seeing results. All these things start happening. But everything is happening from where? From within us. It is not happening somewhere outside. So any form of such change that we need, what truly happens is that we start to understand that it is all going to happen from within. So anything that I want to create a change, be it about depression, be it about anxiety, be it about anything, I start to create this change from his. People have stopped understanding this concept of knowing that it is me who have to solve. It is not somebody else. Even if I go to a psychologist, I go to a hypnotherapist, I go to a sound healer, the person who is healing me is my own self, not them. They are just supporting me to heal. So for example, on a normal day, if I have an argument probably with a friend, I go, I argue, all that happens, I come back, and in a day I come back with a solution, I go talk, I solve. There I have the capacity. When I don't understand that I have the power to heal, then I need to approach an external source or an external person or a psychologist or a hypnotherapist, whoever, who is again going to instill faith in us that you have the power to heal your own self. And then they provide you the tools. So what is really the job of a guru or a mystic or a therapist or a healer? The job of all of us is simply to instill that power within you. There is a separate set or energy, or there is a separate group of people who work towards taking out that confidence out of you. They say, no, you cannot do it, you cannot do it. So the more you hear that this is not possible for you, you will never be successful, you will never be this, you will never be that, what is happening? Your inner power is being snatched away. Probably I don't have sense. Of course, you have the power. Of course, you can do it. You will be successful. You have this, you have that. And all of a sudden, he's filled with so much confidence that now he's going to drive it ahead in a different way. So, who really created the change? Of course, the Guru came as a blessing on an external level, gave him a few words which had power. But who took it and put it into him and then created that change? That is me, the person who received it. So unless we are in a state to receive anything well, any form of change is very difficult, because with the technology improving, with the thing of science and technology coming up, we are having the opportunity of talking to so many people at the comfort of our own homes. This is the biggest blessing that our, because if you just rewind like 100 years back, to meet a guru, you have to literally travel for a month or 10 days, 20 days. Even if you go and meet that guru, probably two days time, 3 days time, then the guru is busy, you have to come back. Whatever you learn in the 2-3 days, then you try to inculcate all your life. Sometimes the guru does not have the time to be present with you all the time. But now, with the blessing of technology, the availability of different gurus, the availability of different people is so much more, that now is the time that we have more potential to tap into our own selves. Now what has happened is there is a certain psychology that is working in the world saying, because of so much of science and technology, people are going haywire, people are going people are basically losing. That is only because they have not realized that technology can also be used in a certain way where it can enhance the way you want to look at life, enhance your perception, enhance how you want to build this power within yourself, right? But unfortunately, the sad side of this entire story is that we are ignoring the things that we are ignoring the potential that we have within us. For example, these animals, they can sense if there is a calamity coming in. They can sense if there's going to be an earthquake or there's going to be a tsunami. These animals have the sense. And we are the most intelligent beings on this planet. And we have forgotten that sense. It is not that we did not have. I traveled to a lot of these villages, and I have traveled to a lot of met a lot of yogis. I've seen where they can just touch the ground and say if it is going to rain today or not. They can just look at the sky and say what is going to happen today. So what does this mean? That we are the ones who created this technology. So imagine the intelligence that we are. The moment we start giving that power and realizing what we truly are, then we will be able to come out of any kind of depression or anxiety, and nobody can affect us. How do we get, this is all about something from an external source coming and affecting us. There is a beautiful analogy for this. So it is like getting stabbed twice. The first stab is coming from an external environment. Now that is more physical in nature, pain. And if we have a cut in our hand, for example, we might see that a small cut is more painful than a bigger one. Now, if we have a small cut anywhere, we are going to that draws more attention to us than a bigger wound which we would have taken care of in a certain way. So certainly one is something that is coming from an external source, like the coronavirus pandemic that we have, disease, for example. The second stab is what we do to our own self after that comes in. Now, what spirituality teaches us is how to deal with this second stab. That is irrespective of what the world throws at you. How do you want to deal with it? The moment you learn this aspect of how you want to deal with it, naturally you're going to be a being that is filled with a lot of bliss. So the path of bhakti teaches this, that you surrender everything to that energy or to the higher consciousness, higher intelligence, almighty God, whatever we want to call it. You surrender your entire being to that higher intelligence in such a way that you are blissed out. Surrender does not simply mean that you're just crying about it to an idol. It is not that. You are singing so much in joy, or you are praying so much in joy that you feel the union with that. That is the path of Bhakti Yoga. So when I pray, I smile, I clap, I sing, I dance. Who am I connecting to? To my own self. But at that point, out of that bhakti to an external source, I'm looking at God in the sky, or looking at God singing, or I'm clapping, whatever. And I fill myself with so much joy using bhakti. So it is very important now to use these two things very importantly. One is the path of jnana, knowledge, self-inquiry. If there is anxiety, depression, are you aware of it? The moment you are aware of something, you have taken care of 50% of the problem. So people who are depressed most of the time, you see that at the initial stages, they don't even know that they're going through depression. People outside are able to recognize that there's something wrong with you, your face has fallen. They go and sit in an empty room with lights switched off, they cry, but they don't accept that they're depressed. If you ask, are you depressed today? Why? Because we have not taught them to just say that, yes, today just this accept, bringing your awareness itself use the concept, the tool of bhakti, where you pray, you sing, you dance, you express your emotions, because this is, in the healing terms, we have this thing called repression leads to depression. So what bhakti teaches you is not to repress, but to express. Expression leads to bliss. So we use the path of jnana to understand, to inquire, to bring awareness. We use the path of bhakti to express and remove all these unwanted things out of our head, or out of our mind, or out of our heart. Then there is karma yoga. Now karma yoga is even more important in today's times of COVID, because now is the time where everybody is getting into cooking, everybody's trying to help each other, the entire family. At the other times, the opportunities for karma yoga within the family scale is less. If you want to do service selflessly, you have to probably find an organization, a spiritual organization. You have to find that, are they doing some kind of work? Okay, let me travel there, let me go. Now the opportunity has come right into our doorstep, where there is time, there is opportunity. Come help your mother, come help your sister, come help your brother, come karma, do that path of selfless service. So when you're serving for your family, it is always selfless. You don't expect anything back. If you, for example, you're cooking for your family today, there is no expectation that, oh, tomorrow my family also should cook for me. So that action itself is selfless. So jnana, bhakti, karma, finally is raja yoga. Raja yoga is, naturally you have to feel bliss and nothing else. There is no you. So, but I think these are 4 things that I thought that I will share, and these are we should also share with the kids.
That's beautiful.
Now, for
We are unable to hear you. Sorry, you went. Yes.
yes. So Jnana Yoga, just teach them a very, very simple philosophy of, okay, so after what happened to you? Okay, so as you grew up, what are the thoughts you're having? Just cultivating the thought of bringing that self-awareness into their own selves. Then the path of bhakti, where you teach them how to pray to God, how to sing to God, how to pray to your own self, how to understand the power that you have within. Give them the freedom to express. So like I said initially, that they don't know where to go and express. They want somebody to talk to. Because kids are not getting a place where they can talk to, they are going into all these forms of mental health issues. And then teach them karma yoga, which is very easy. Let's plant a tree today. Let's do something for nature today. Let's do something for people today, right? And then the concept of Raja Yoga for kids is just making them sit and just give them a, like a challenge that, okay, can you sit for a minute in complete silence without thinking about anything? Rather than, giving them concepts, just give them exercises. Okay, now I'm giving you a challenge, sit for 1 minute without thinking about anything, hold your thought. Or then give them an exercise, hold to one thought and hold on to that one thought for 1 minute. Because if we start this from our childhood, then we'll have very, very blissful children coming out in the future. Our mind is capable of only thinking of hint that take it one step at a time. We can only think of one emotion, one thought, one feeling, one perspective at one moment. So our mind is moving from one eternity to another eternity in a very poetic language, but we can say from one moment to another moment, or from one present to another present. The moment we stop living in the future or in the past, our body is right here. So why don't we live in the moment here and just be at bliss, rather than completely living in the future or in the past? Because all our lives we do that, and finally when we reach the deathbed, we realize, oh my God, all my life I've only planned the future, or I've thought about the past, but I've never really lived. That is why people who are experiencing the final moments of their life, they have this feeling that I want to learn dance, I want to do something for myself right now, but then it is too late. Now we have the energy, now we have the time, now we have the ability. This is the time to take advantage of this opportunity, and I hope and pray that everybody takes this opportunity ahead, takes these words that I've said ahead, and implements it in their life in some way or the other, and you will naturally see a change without the need of
Thank you for
instant.
sharing that. And you are so right that all this knowledge has been given to us, but with technology we have forgotten. And I remember Krishna explains it so beautifully in Bhagavad Gita about all these yogas. It is not about just the physical aspect of it, but the different kinds of yogas. So like you rightly mentioned, the first is Jnana Yoga, to understand who am I, and not to think of yourself as somebody who's, and once you understand the strength within you and that you are part of the divine, then you understand that you have the strength to face any challenge. The second, as you have mentioned, is Bhakti Yoga, where, and there is a reason why we are called human beings and not human doings, right? So we take so much of pressure that I do this, I need to do that, I need to do this. Sometimes just leave it in that moment and saying, I surrender. There is a divine intelligence who is guiding me, who will take me through this process. So thank you for all these. And of course, Raja Yoga too, mindfulness, meditation, all these are processes. So thank you so much for reminding us about these things. And can we take a few questions from the participants now regarding anxiety and depression? So participants, may I request you all to put your questions in the chat box, and we would request Antarguru to answer those. And we have 10 minutes. So yeah, request you all to put in your questions. I have asked this question to some of our participants earlier, and we have ran some survey, and we have a list of questions. So let's, till we get the questions from the participants, I will share with you a few. Is that with the COVID around, there is so much of anxiety, whether it is COVID or the managing the family without helpers, or it is the work life. Now with working from home, there is no more demarcation. Earlier at 5 o'clock, I think we are done. At least mentally, we knew that we are done and we would come home. But now there is no, everything is gray area. So how do we manage this anxiety on a daily basis? Is there a specific tool that you could suggest us?
Yes. See, what happens is that whenever we have a situation in life, we first look at what are the things which are negative during that situation. For example, when we were at work, all that we wanted is, you know what, I'm okay to work for 24 hours, 24/7 at my home. I'll be more at peace than coming here and dealing with from home. Now we are complaining about, oh, from 5 to 10, there is this extra 5 hours that I have to work. Nobody cares about the kind of effort I'm putting. Understand that you're here to work, you're here to fulfill certain duties to the society, to the family, to do your karma. That is where karma yoga also comes into the picture. But very importantly, to take time also for your own self during these. Now in 24 hours, let's say you work for 10 hours. After that, you have a lot of time as well. So it is okay to reduce your sleep by 1 or 2 hours to just get a little more spiritual and wise, because it is only going to help you longer, on a longer run. So whatever tools are good enough tools to inculcate every day on a daily basis, and so just start off with this inquiry, even when we are just lying down. When we are lying about what that person spoke about me, let us go into self. Apart from that, when we have a little more time to spend after giving all the time to family and doing the karma that you have to do, spend a little more time to devote yourself to meditate, to be a little more mindful, to be a little more aware. And then Bhakti Yoga is a choice. Now, that some people don't want to take up Bhakti Yoga because their belief about the system of God or belief about the system of religion might be different, which is understandable. But Bhakti to your own self, you have to be devoted to your own self and devoted to your work as well. Only when that happens can you be humble, and will you be able to understand what situation is and not fill yourself with egos, not fill yourself with a lot of ego. So these are little things that you can apply on a daily basis. Very, very important, very, very simple and complicated as you progress in the path, but very, very simple to start off with. I think these are the best tools, which I think I already answered this during the talk.
There's one more question. So how do we manage the negative thoughts that come to us that make us anxious?
Right. So first is, like I said, to be aware, to understand that right now I'm facing, but let's say now, I would want all the participants close your eyes and just think of one situation in your life where you felt very negative. You felt very, very negative within you, where you felt that, this situation is very difficult for me to come out of, and it has completely disturbed me. I don't know how life is going to go on from here. Some situation or something a little more smaller or bigger. Different people would have different intensities of this emotion, but just think about that situation, bring it to your awareness, right? But now when you look back at that situation as a third person, what do you feel about it? Do you feel that at that point you gave too much importance to that energy, which is why you felt helpless? And most of the time, if you have come past that issue, your answer will be yes. You can open your eyes. So this is what you need to understand, is that at that moment of time, what are you giving energy to? What are you giving the power to? Do you want to give the power to that thought which is going to bring you down? Or do you want to give a little more power to that thought which is going to make you a little more positive? And to first understand, like these waves, that it is not permanent. At some points, it is going to be at complete standstill. It is going to be still. Then there are times where you have these very, very furious waves. Then there are times where you have these very, very smaller waves. The idea is to understand that none of this is really going to affect me for who I am as a pure consciousness. The moment you understand this, and the moment you constantly remind yourself of this, like I said, that these tools are not something that you can use in a day and escape out of your situation. What I'm giving you is tools that is going to last forever. Now, if you want a immediate situation, then you'll have to approach somebody who's well known in mental sciences, who's a psychologist or a hypnotherapist, because based on your individual situation, they'll analyze your thought process, they'll analyze how you think, they'll analyze what you're doing, and then they'll give you a certain solution. But the thing is, we can't always do that for every problem. So the idea is to build ourselves in such a way using these tools, where let any situation come in our life, we have applied this so much that it does not affect us anymore. So it is good to start off with these 4 tools that I gave you. It is good to begin with this, practice this on a constant basis in little bits, and then you will see that anxiety and depression will not affect you the way it was. It is not that it is not going to affect you at all. It is going to, being a human being, it is a very, very planned mechanism that you have to go through different emotions. But here the idea is to experience bliss more than other emotions. That is what we are aiming at. So not living in a certain emotion which is negative for a long time. How quick can you snap back into something positive? That is what these tools are going to teach you.
Wonderful. We have another question from Mr. Ranganathan. When do we know that we as human beings are growing spiritually to reach union with the higher supreme? And how can we sustain constant integrated awareness?
Right. See, there is nothing to know about it, because we are already in the journey of becoming one with the divine. Why I say this is because different people are in different speeds in this journey. What happens is we start looking at this on a very corporate style. Oh, so this person is a little more ahead, this person is a little more behind. In spirituality, there is no such thing as ahead and behind. Everybody are seekers. Even a person, if you look at if you have met beings who are enlightened in your lives, if you meet them, you will see that they are also always in a process of seeking. They are also always in a process of devotion. They are also singing to the Almighty. The process is not different between the two. It is that one is doing with complete awareness, one is doing with complete what to say, when I'm in a problem, let me think about God. When I'm not in a problem, then I will not think about it. That kind of a situation where we just use it when required and then forget about it. It is that even when you're in bliss, you have to apply these things. Even when you face a situation, you can come out of it easily. The mistake that we do is when we are in a problem, we start running out for a lot of solutions. And then when we are happy, we'll say, when that comes, then we'll deal with it. So that approach is what creates the issue. What is the second part of the question?
How do we sustain constant integrated awareness, which means how do we consistently stay on the path?
Yes, I think it all answers back to the 4 tools that I gave you. It comes back to Jnana Yoga, reminding, comes to Bhakti Yoga, devotion. I think most of the answers will consist these answers that I gave in the talk.
So he's right. Your Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raj, you will be well on your way. So there is one last question because of lack of time, we'll not be able to take any more. One last question. Sai Ram Antarguru, you mentioned different consciousness. Do we as beginners have to go through each stage, each being a stage or a step to reach the final goal?
Okay, to understand the question better, are you saying that we should approach individually? Sorry, I didn't understand.
No, I think she's trying to ask that do we choose just one path and follow that, or we use all these paths in steps so that we can,
right. I think that is a common question that we get when we speak about when we speak about this. Yes, that's a very important question. I think it is important to take one path as your powerful tool and then follow others as well. In the sense that dedicate to one in such a way where you're spending a lot of time on that one path. For example, if you want to spend time on Bhakti Yoga, spend a lot of time in devotion and bliss. And Jnana Yoga, these are like connected strings, these are all connected to each other. So what happens is when you start mastering one, everything else will follow its way. But at the same time, it is very difficult to just follow one because we have to experience all these stages because we have a brain, we have the path of Jnana Yoga because it is trying to master our mind. We are trying to teach our mind to become aware, to understand who we are, to go within. And then Bhakti Yoga is opening up the heart. Right? So, and then Karma Yoga is using our bodies. And finally, Raja Yoga is bringing all together and reaching the ultimate. So everything needs to be followed, but you can take one path which, so some people say, I don't have that kind of a commitment where I can sit and devote for 1 hour, 2 hours, where I can sing for 1 hour, 2 hours. I feel more better into self-inquiry. When I meditate and inquire into my own self, I feel that I like silence more than music and sounds. I like silence. So such people can take the path of Jnana Yoga and take advantage, go deep. Slowly it will lead you to bhakti, very, very naturally. That happens. When you go to Bhakti Yoga, what happens is because we are given with a brain, these inner questions are going to keep coming. That okay, when I pray, so who is this God that I'm praying? Is it somebody outside or is it somebody within? As you're praying, these questions will naturally come. So everything is going to come together at one point. There is a meeting point. But take one as a very, very positive tool which resonates with you. Most of the people that I came from the organization I came from, they are all in the path of Karma Yoga. Lot of selfless service every day morning, serving breakfast to the kids and going and serving the needy, going and doing this, going and doing that. Even they finally lead to this question that okay, I'm doing so much for the society, I'm doing so much. Now how do I still try and connect to God a little more? How do I try and understand God, or how do I try and understand myself a little more? They start coming back here. So everybody has to jump from one to the other, but taking one as your core motive and strengthening that, and then using everything else as smaller tools would help.
That's beautifully explained. Yeah, and then on the path of self-development and transformation, I believe that we can do things in silos. And the higher spiritual sciences and art, and they say that we are never in silos. We are all connected. The way our masters have is this, that everything exists and everything needs to be practiced too. And I think we, whether consciously or unconsciously, we do it too. So when we have a self-inquiry, who am I, right? We do what is required move to the next level. People do get into this thought process. They keep thinking and more mulling over it. And that's not going to give you results unless you move to the next level and say, yes, there is a divine power. There is something higher than me. And then, yes, I need to take action. I need to get up from here and do that. So on a psychological level, on the question of anxiety and depression, I'm talking about this. On spiritual levels, yes, Antarguru has answered you all already. So thank you so much for that. And we would love to take more questions, but unfortunately there is very little time, and I hope Antarguru comes back another time and talks more about another subject. And that is when you can ask your questions. So thank you everyone for participating, and most importantly, on process and reminding us about the yoga. And accept them and practice them. So thank you so much for reminding us. Stay safe and do not feel anxious. Follow these tools and we'll see you next week. Namaskar.